At 2:47 a.m., my marriage died with a single buzz on her nightstand. 8 stupid words on a glowing screen did what 20 years of arguments, bills, and compromises never could. They burned the whole thing down in silence. I can tell you the exact time my marriage ended. 2:47 a.m. A Tuesday so ordinary it didn't deserve a memory. I was half asleep on my side of the bed, doing that shallow drift where your body's out but your brain's still wired. The room was dark, curtains cracked just enough to let in a piece of streetlight. Then her phone buzzed on the nightstand. One buzz, not the usual stream. Julia always put it face down. Always. That night, for once, it was face up. Blue light lit her side of the room, washed over her face. She looked peaceful, like someone in an ad for sleep meds. I didn't move at first, just watched the light. Then my eyes focused on the screen. Can't wait to feel you again tomorrow, Brandon. 8 words. That was it. No pictures. No drama. Just a sentence that reached straight into my chest and flipped a switch. Brandon. My brain did that slow, grinding connect the dots. Brandon who? I scrolled back through memory, not messages. And then it hit Brandon Chase. CEO. Her boss. The same guy who gripped my hand too long at the Christmas party and said, "You're a lucky man, Max. She's special." Yeah. Special. I lay there, staring at the text, feeling my blood go from warm to ice. My ears started ringing, but the rest of the room got sharp. The smell of her perfume on the pillow, the slow rise and fall of her breathing, the tiny little smile resting on her lips while she slept. And behind that, everything I'd brushed off for months lined up like dominoes. Late night presentation, don't wait up, calls she'd take in the bathroom with the water running, new lingerie I never saw again, the sudden gym obsession, the way she'd started saying, "Some of us actually care about ambition, Max," like my steady job and quiet life were some kind of disease. I told myself she was stressed, driven, chasing promotions. I'd believed every excuse because believing the alternative meant admitting I was living with a stranger. Lying there, with her phone screen still glowing in my face, those excuses died. Every one of them. I didn't wake her, didn't throw the phone, didn't scream. That's not who I am. I slid out of bed, careful not to shake the mattress, and walked out to the kitchen. The tile was cold under my feet. The house sounded different now. Same walls, same furniture, but it all felt staged, like I'd wandered onto a set built for someone else's life. I stood there in the dark, fingers wrapped around the edge of the counter, breathing slowly, letting the reality settle in bone deep. Everyone thought Max Harper was oblivious, the easygoing guy, the one who didn't notice things. They were about to find out how wrong they were. The alarm went off at 6:15 like nothing had happened. For a second, I forgot. Just a groan, a hand over my face, the usual weight of another weekday. Then I rolled over and saw her. Julia was already up on one elbow, scrolling her phone, that soft morning light hitting her just right. Same woman, completely different to me now. "Hey, sleepyhead," she said, leaning over to kiss my cheek. "Rough night." I looked at her phone. Screen dark, face down again. Lesson learned, I guess. "Didn't sleep great," I said. My voice sounded normal, even to me. That bothered me more than anything. In the kitchen, she moved like she always did when she was in a good mood. Bare feet on tile, humming some pop song under her breath. Hair up in a careless knot that probably took 20 minutes. She poured my coffee, slid the mug over like we were still us. "Big day today," she said, grabbing a protein bar. "Brandon wants my input on the Q3 rollout. Might be another late one." "Of course he does." "Yeah," I asked, taking a sip. "You two have been spending a lot of time together." She froze for half a heartbeat. Most people wouldn't notice. I did. Her eyes flicked up, measured me. Then she smiled like a switch had flipped. "That's how promotions work, Max. Some of us actually care about advancing our careers." There it was. The contempt she'd learned to dress up as motivation. I nodded slowly, looking around the kitchen. White and chrome. Everything sleek, curated. The chairs no one sat in. The fruit bowl that was always full but never eaten. The life she picked out like a catalog spread and parked us in. Right? I said. Some of us do. She tilted her head like she'd won something. Kissed me on the forehead this time, a gesture you give a kid, not a husband. Don't wait up, she said, grabbing her bag. You know how it is. Yeah. I did now. Murphy's Bar at noon on a weekday is a different planet. No suits, no noise, just that quiet hum of people avoiding something. Pete took one look at me as I walked in, wiped his hands on a towel, and reached for the top shelf. No questions. Double pour. He set the glass down. Who died? I stared at the whiskey for a second, then at him. My marriage, I said. About 2:47 this morning. He didn't crack a joke, just raised an eyebrow. Talk, I told him. The text. The name. Brandon Chase. The Christmas party. The late nights. The whole ugly puzzle finally snapped into place. I kept my voice steady, my hands wrapped around the glass so hard my knuckles went white. Pete shook his head slowly. Brandon, he muttered. Yeah, I've heard things. What kind of things? The kind that starts with HR complaint and ends with a quiet settlement, he said. Guy gets off on power. Waitresses, assistants, junior execs. Married women make him feel invincible. My stomach dropped, but it wasn't a surprise. It was confirmation. I wasn't special. Julia wasn't special. We were just another story on his highlight reel. Pete leaned on the bar. You sure you want to know more? I know enough, I said. And I did. I knew exactly what I was to both of them now. The idiot husband in the background. The prop. The joke. Pete studied me. So what are you going to do? I finished the whiskey in one slow swallow and set the glass down carefully, like the answer might be hiding at the bottom. When I spoke, it wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I'm not going down without a fight. Suspicion is loud at first. Then it gets quiet and efficient. I didn't confront her right away. I went to work. I came home. I watched. The days after Murphy's, I started seeing everything in high definition. The bathroom calls with the fan on. The way she angled her body away when she talked, voice dropping, laughter turning softer, younger. The sudden obsession with her body, new workout gear, new running shoes, counting macros like she was training for war. The clothes changed too. Sharper lines, deeper cuts, more money. Tags from places that didn't match my salary or hers. Fresh blowouts, perfect nails, lingerie bags stuffed into the back of the closet like evidence. I didn't say a word. I just logged it. The proof came on a Thursday night, stupidly enough, while I was doing laundry. She was working late again. I was sorting clothes in the laundry room when I saw it. Her navy blazer crumpled on top of the hamper, not hung like usual. I picked it up. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Expensive. Male. Not my cologne, not anything I owned. Under that, faint, but there was perfume I didn't recognize. Then I saw the collar. A smear of deep burgundy lipstick, dragged just enough to tell a story. Julia doesn't wear that color. She likes pale pink, soft and safe. This was bold, dark, reckless. I held the blazer for a long time. Didn't rage. Didn't cry. Just let the last pieces of doubt die. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat in the living room with my laptop and started digging into Brandon Chase. Public articles, interviews, company press releases, photos from galas and charity events. And there she was, Tessa Chase. Stunning, composed, always at his side in the older pictures. In the newer ones, she was next to him but not really with him, body angled away, eyes somewhere else. Elegant, distant, carrying a kind of quiet loneliness you only see if you know what it feels like. I caught myself wondering if she knew. If she'd seen the signs, smelled the cologne, found the lipstick. If she'd chosen to look away or if he'd kept it buried. That question didn't hang in the air for long. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. Short message. Your wife and my husband. We need to talk. Cafe Luna? Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Come alone. Tessa. I stared at the screen, heart thudding once, hard. The other betrayed spouse had just walked onto the board. Cafe Luna is the kind of place where people talk about pitches and screenplays, not how to dismantle a CEO. Exposed brick, soft music, the smell of espresso and sugar hanging in the air like a promise. I got there 10 minutes early and took a table in the back. I wanted to see the door. Old IT habit. Always know your exits. She walked in at 2:02. Tessa Chase didn't scan the room like someone unsure. She walked straight to me, heels quiet on the floor, posture perfect. Tall, composed, dark hair pulled back clean, wearing a simple black dress that didn't need any help. The only thing that gave her away was her eyes, steady, but carrying 20 years of swallowed anger. "Max?" she asked. I stood. "Tessa." We shook hands. Firm grip. No tremor. We sat. She didn't waste time. "I'm not going to ask if it's true," she said. "I know it is." She slid a manila envelope out of her bag and pushed it across the table like it was a contract. "No drama, just business." "Open it." Inside were photos. Brandon and Julia at a restaurant, at a hotel bar, walking into his office after dark. Different outfits, different days. She'd labeled them, dates and locations in neat handwriting. Beneath the photos, photocopies of statements, credit cards, weekend conferences that lined up with those pictures, charges at resorts nowhere near any actual event. "How long?" I asked. My voice sounded quieter than I felt. "Brandon," she said, "since before we were married. Your wife, about 8 months." She said it like she was discussing the weather. Controlled. Practiced. "You've known this whole time?" "I've known pieces," she said. "I started collecting the rest 3 years ago. It takes time to build something airtight." "Airtight for what?" She leaned in a little. "For this." She outlined it calmly like a project plan. The upcoming spring charity gala at the Riverside Country Club. The board. The investors. The press. The donors. All the people whose opinion Brandon actually fears. "Public," she said. "Undeniable. Devastating. No room for spin." I let the words sit. Public. Undeniable. Devastating. "You're talking about blowing up both marriages and his career in one night," I said. "I'm talking about the truth," she replied. "In a room where it will cost him the most." Silence settled over the table for a beat. Cups clinked in the distance. Someone laughed near the counter. "And me?" I asked. "What's my role in this?" Her eyes met mine, steady. "We can't show up alone. They need to see the consequences. They need to see we're not hiding in shame while they play star-crossed lovers." She said the next part slowly. "We need to be seen together, Max. We need to look like we're moving on. As a couple." I held her gaze. "You're talking about optics." "Initially," she said. Then, softer, a crack of something human under the strategy. "And maybe not just for revenge. But that's later." I looked down at the photos spread between us, at the numbers on the statements, at 20 years of my life being used as a prop in someone else's ego game. When I looked back up, my decision was already made. "Okay," I said. "Let's burn it down." Riverside Country Club always felt like enemy territory to me. Too much glass, too many people who never had dirt under their nails. This time I walked in on purpose. First stop was Tessa's place. House doesn't cover it. Long driveway, perfect lawn, the kind of quiet that says the neighbors all have lawyers on retainer. I pulled up in the rented black sedan, adjusted the cuff of the tuxedo she'd insisted I buy. Fit better than anything I owned. She opened the door and for a second, I forgot why we were doing this. Emerald dress, clean lines, nothing cheap or loud. It hit her figure just right, and her hair was down this time, waves over one shoulder. Not flashy, just undeniable. "You clean up well, Max," she said. "So do you," I answered. Understatement of the year. On the drive over, we went over the plan one more time. No overacting. No scenes. We let them walk into it. The truth does the work. Inside the ballroom, the air was thick with money and perfume. Chandeliers, white tablecloths, a string quartet pretending they weren't bored. Heads turned when we walked in. Not at me. Her. Tessa Chase. On the arm of a man who wasn't her husband. Good. Let them talk. We made a slow loop around the room, giving people time to notice. I felt eyes on us and heard the whispers start. Tessa squeezed my arm once, a steadying pressure, then angled her head toward the silent auction. That's where they were. Julia in a tight red dress, trying too hard to project, I belong here. Brandon in a tailored suit, smile turned up to 11 for whatever donor he was charming. He saw us first. His face drained a shade, then tried to recover. Showtime, Tessa murmured. We walked straight toward them. No detours. No hesitation. Good evening, Brandon, Tessa said, voice smooth, carrying just enough to reach a few nearby ears. I don't think you've met my date. This is Max. His jaw twitched. He knew exactly who I was. Julia turned, ready to lay on some social charm, and then her eyes hit my face. Everything froze, her smile, her posture, her breathing. Max, she whispered. What are you doing here? Enjoying the evening, I said calmly. With Tessa. My date. That word landed like a rock in a glass room. Conversations around us dipped. People pretended not to listen and failed. Tessa looped her arm tighter through mine. You didn't tell me you were bringing your employee, darling, she said to Brandon, her tone just a hair too sweet. Then again, you've been blurring those lines for years, haven't you? A few heads snapped our way. Phones appeared like magic. Brandon's smile cracked. Tessa, let's not make a scene. Oh, I think the scene made itself, she replied. You touch your employees. You use company funds to finance your affairs. Now you get to do something you've never done in your life, Brandon. Answer for it. A murmur rolled through the crowd. Touch his employees? Affairs? Company funds? The phrases bounced off marble and glass, multiplying. Julia finally found her voice. Max, this isn't what you think. I looked her dead in the eye. I've seen the texts, the hotel bills, the photos. I know exactly what it is. Her mouth opened and closed, nothing coming out. We didn't stay to argue. That wasn't the point. Tessa gave Brandon one last, cold, perfect smile, the kind you give a man at his own funeral, then turned us away. We walked across the ballroom hand in hand while their carefully polished world caught fire behind us. By Monday morning, the gala wasn't just a night. It was a rumor with teeth. I didn't have to chase it. Came to me in pings and whispers. Slack messages half-typed then deleted. Side glances in the hallway. People talking about that scene at Riverside, like it was a movie they'd watched, not two lives getting cut open under chandeliers. Then Marcus from IT messaged me. Got something you'll want to hear. Smoke room, 10. The smoke room was an old storage office we used when we didn't feel like lying in conference rooms. He shut the door behind us and leaned against a server rack. The board called an emergency meeting at his company this morning, he said. Investors are spooked. HR's dredging up old complaints. Culture review. You know what that means? Yeah, I said. It means they're finally pretending to care. He shrugged. Whatever. The point is, your boy Brandon's castle is leaking. I went home that night to find Julia already there, pacing the living room with a blotchy face and a wine glass in her hand. They suspended me, she snapped as soon as I walked in. No hello. No nothing. Pending investigation. Do you know why, Max? Because of your little stunt with that woman. That woman? I asked, hanging my keys up. The CEO's psycho wife, she spat. You humiliated Brandon. You humiliated me. Do you have any idea what you've done to my career? I took off my jacket, folded it over the chair, and finally let myself stop pretending. I've known for weeks, I said. About you and him. She froze. I saw the text. I went on. The late nights. The lipstick on your blazer. The cologne that isn't mine. I've seen the photos. I know every hotel, every conference. Say the word with me, Julia. Affair. For a moment, something like shame slipped over her face. Then it curdled into anger. You were holding me back, she said, voice shaking. You and your mediocre little life. Your safe job, your small circle, your zero ambition. I finally had a chance to be more, and you couldn't stand it. I let her finish. Let it all spill out. The insults, the blame, the twisted logic that made her the victim of her own choices. When she ran out of steam, I just nodded. Good to know how you really see me, I said quietly. It makes the next part easier. What's next? Divorce, I said. You can take your more and go chase it alone. She stormed off to the guest room, slamming the door hard enough to rattle a picture frame. For the first time in months, the house felt lighter. Empty, but lighter. The next day, Cafe Luna again. Different clothes, same war table. Tessa had a folder open in front of her. Neat stacks of paper. She looked tired but focused, like a general after the first successful strike. Brandon's in panic mode, she said, stirring her coffee. The board's furious. Investors are nervous. And Patricia Whitmore is very interested. Who's Patricia? Society columnist. Has a nose for blood and a side interest in workplace misconduct. She's putting together a piece on predatory corporate behavior. Brandon's the centerpiece. She slid another set of papers toward me. Legal language. Headings. Dates. Divorce petition, she said. I'm going after half his assets plus damages. Affairs on company time using company money, harassment patterns. My lawyer's been building this for years. The gala just gave us the perfect timing. My phone lit up on the table. Brandon. Tessa's lips curved in a humorless smile. Put it on speaker, she said. And let him talk. I did. Max. Brandon's voice came through, raw and strained. We need to settle this like men. You don't know what you're getting into. Tessa's unstable. She's... Brandon. Tessa cut in smoothly, leaning toward the phone. You're on speaker, and I'm recording this. So choose your next words very carefully. Silence. Then a sharp exhale, the sound of a man realizing for the first time that the ground under him isn't solid anymore. The building was almost empty when he showed up. I was at my desk, eyes on a system upgrade, brain halfway between code and coffee, fluorescent lights buzzing, servers humming, the kind of dead office quiet that makes you feel like the last man on earth. Then I felt it before I saw it. A shift in the air. Max. I looked up. Brandon Chase stood in my cubicle entrance like a storm that had already been rained through. Tie crooked, suit wrinkled, eyes red from too many bad nights. The polish was gone. Underneath it was just a guy who'd spent his life believing no one could touch him. We need to talk, he said. I'm working, I answered. Submit a ticket. He forced a little laugh, stepped in anyway, leaning on the edge of my desk like he owned the plastic. You think you're clever? You and Tessa? You're in over your head, son. I'm not your son, I said. And I'm exactly where I want to be. His jaw clenched. Julia chose a better man. You couldn't keep up, so you tried to drag us both down. You think anyone's going to side with some mid-level IT guy over me? There it was. The core of him. Status as oxygen. You're not a better man, I said calmly. You're just a predator with a corner office. Big difference. Something broke behind his eyes. He grabbed my shirt, yanked me up out of my chair so fast the wheels squeaked. His breath hit my face, sour with stress and expensive whiskey. You have no idea what I can do to you, he hissed. I have people. I have. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. You pulled records on the wrong Max Harper, I said. There's another one accounting for 3 buildings over. Divorced twice, bankrupt once. That's his mess, not mine. He blinked. Confusion, then rage. His grip tightened. For a second, I saw the punch coming. Problem here? Pete's voice. Brandon turned his head. Pete stood at the cubicle entry with 2 of his biggest regulars flanking him. Both security contractors who treated the gym like church. Arms crossed. Not smiling. Brandon did the math. Hands slowly unclenched. He stepped back, straightened his jacket like he hadn't just tried to start a fight in front of a camera mounted in the ceiling corner. This isn't over, he muttered. You're right, I said. It's just getting to the good part. He left. We pulled the security footage that night. Assault, clear as day. 3 witnesses. Time-stamped. Tessa's lawyer nearly purred when he saw it. Patricia Whitmore loved it even more. Her article dropped like a hammer. Ex-employees coming forward, patterns laid out, receipts attached. At the emergency shareholders meeting, we sat in the back and watched. Hotel bills, jewelry on the corporate card, harassment allegations, the footage of him grabbing me, frozen on a big screen. In under an hour, the untouchable CEO was untouchable no more. Contract terminated for cause, golden parachute voided, security escorting him out past people who wouldn't meet his eyes. The bully finally hit a wall he couldn't shove. We picked a place that used real candles, not battery ones. White tablecloths, low light, windows looking out over the river. The kind of restaurant my old life with Julia used to walk past and say, "Someday." Tessa sat across from me in a simple navy dress, hair pinned back, makeup softer than the gala. Less armor. More about her. For once, we weren't talking about strategy. No mentions of the board, the lawyers, the settlement. Just normal stuff. Her plans for the gallery she wanted to open. The way she used to sketch in college before Brandon convinced her. That kind of thing doesn't scale. My new offer from a startup that actually cared what I built instead of how fast I could duct tape other people's mistakes. At some point, between the main course and dessert, I just said it. "I like this," I told her. "Not revenge. This, you." The woman behind the spreadsheets and the blackmail folders. Her eyes held mine. There was a softness there I hadn't seen, but it wasn't a weakness. It was a relief. "I like who you are when you're not bracing for impact," I went on. "Brave, loyal, sharp as hell. Funny when you let yourself be. I don't know exactly what this is yet, but I know I want it to be real. Not built on anger, built on choice." She exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding that breath for years. "I've spent so long reacting to him," she said. "I'd like to see who I am when I'm not orbiting his mess." "Then let's find out," I said. She smiled, small but true. "Yeah," she said. "Let's." That's when I heard the heels. Too fast, too uneven. Someone bumping a chair, muttering apologies. The scrape of wood on tile. The room's noise shifted. Julia. She stood near the host stand. Hair wild. Makeup smeared. Dress from some other night. Half-zipped. Drunk was obvious from 5 tables away. When she saw us, something in her face snapped. "There they are," she slurred, pointing straight at us. "The home wreckers." Conversations died mid-sentence. Phones came out like a reflex. She staggered toward our table, gripping the back of a chair for balance. The manager moved in too slow. "You destroyed my life," she yelled, voice cracking. "My job, my reputation, everything. I had everything lined up and you two torched it." I stayed seated. Tessa didn't flinch. "Julia," I said quietly, "you did that when you started sleeping with your boss." "That's not," she started, then turned on Tessa. You cold little statue. You couldn't keep your husband, so you had to drag me down too. He loves me. He's not calling you back, Julia." Tessa cut in, voice calm and clear enough for the whole room to hear. "He's already looking for someone newer. You were a phase, like the others." I watched it hit her. The exact second the fantasy cracked. Her face went blank, then twisted. "Liar," she whispered, then louder, "Liar." Her hand shot out, grabbed a half-full wine glass from the next table, and hurled it at us. It sailed wide, shattered against the wall behind Tessa, red streaking down white paint. Someone screamed. Staff closed in. "Ma'am, you need to leave." "Miss, that's enough." She fought them, words dissolving into curses, threats, half-formed sentences about how we'd regret this, how we'd be nothing. Someone had already called the police. By the time they walked her out, wrists behind her back, she wasn't focused on us anymore. She was screaming at the air, at the life she thought she was owed. The door shut. The restaurant exhaled. Outside the big window, blue and red lights flashed, reflected in the river. Tessa looked at the dripping wine on the wall, then back at me. "Dessert somewhere else?" she asked calmly. I huffed a small laugh. "You really have no regrets, do you?" She held my eyes, steady and sure. I spent 20 years regretting not standing up for myself, she said. I'm not about to regret finally doing it. 3 months later, nobody talks about the gala anymore. Not out loud. It's just part of the city's background noise now. One of those stories people half remember when they're warning a new hire about office culture. Brandon and I have an agreement. The footage of him grabbing me plus the witnesses gave us leverage. His lawyers came crawling with a mutual non-interference deal. No charges from us, no contact from him for 5 years. He keeps his record cleaner than he deserves. I keep my peace. Fair enough. The marriages are over. On paper and everywhere else. Tessa walked out of court with a settlement big enough to cover 20 years of silence and then some. House, assets, a chunk of his future earnings. More importantly, she walked out without his name chained to hers. Brandon lives in another state now, consulting for a mid-level firm that doesn't put his face on any brochures. No magazine covers, no keynote speeches. Just a man in a downgraded suit, clinging to whatever's left. Julia didn't get alimony. The judge took one look at the affair timeline and the financials and decided she could stand on her own 2 feet. She rents a small place across town now and works the front desk at a medical office. 9 to 5. No late presentations. As for me, I moved in with Tessa. Not as a rebound, as a choice. She opened the gallery she used to talk about in the spaces between strategy sessions. Clean walls, local artists, real conversations. I joined a startup where I build systems from the ground up instead of patching someone else's shortcuts. It feels good to create instead of just repair. Our evenings are quiet. Sometimes we sit on the back deck with a drink, watching the sky fade out, talking about how everything started with that text at 2:47 a.m. We always end up at the same place. If it hadn't been that night, it would have been another. Lies don't stay buried forever. The real revenge wasn't the gala, or the article, or watching handcuffs click. It wasn't seeing them lose titles, money, status. The real revenge was looking in the mirror and actually respecting the man staring back. It's waking up in a life that's honest. Sharing a house with a woman whose values match mine. Knowing that if someone betrays me now, I'll walk away without hesitating. Because I've already proved to myself that I can. They worshipped power, image, status. Turns out none of that beats this. Peace, a clean conscience, and a partner who's actually on your side.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.